Hello everybody, my name is VelocityLP and welcome to this match of Dota 2 submitted on /r/Dota2 casted by Thumper, who is playing the Techies. Thank you for submitting this match. Let's see who we've got here. On the Radiant team we have Blitzkrieg as the Bloodseeker. We have Piggy as the Doom, Carry or Feed as Ursa, Sori as Magnus, and Baby Sabah as the Witch Doctor. Coming up on Dire we have... What's your full name? Let's see. The Crazy Honey Badger as Pudge. We've got Yafish as Medusa. Timbersaw named Mikhail Trotsky. Slardar is AV. And of course, the aforementioned Thumper as Techies. See how they're starting here. Techies is going a bit of an unusual build. He's got a fairy fire and some branches. He's looking to play a bit aggressively maybe. Throwing out the infamous right-click Techies build that we all know and love. Kappa. Right, of course. Just going for a general rune contestation. No aggressive pushes here. Witch Doctor is getting a bit of vision scouting out here by the Upper Dire Shrine, but looks like there will be no punishment to his very aggressive positioning here. Not sure what his plan is. Is he planning on going for an early gank on the Pudge, who is playing as their position 2, it looks like. Dire mid laner. It's not something you see all that often nowadays. Usually Pudge is played as the position 4, roaming, just getting a few picks here and there, but not taking a full lane's farm. Witch Doctor coming in, just throwing some preliminary harass out onto the Pudge. Not going to do that much, but it's going to keep him away from the wave and make sure that he doesn't get any farm. Just in case that Magnus can't handle things on his own, he's just going to make sure that nothing too worrying happens there. In the safe lane we have the Carry or Feed Ursa, who is doing just fine against a Timbersaw, who can't do that much against him early on. Once Timber gets some more levels, he'll probably become a formidable threat against Ursa, but in the meantime, it's just going to be a bit of a free farm lane for Ursa. Timber probably can't get too close without risking those Fury Swipes stacking up and doing some heavy damage, and Ursa knows this. He's going Earth Shock, so he can just punish that Timbersaw if he gets too close. In the top lane, Witch Doctor's now up here, trying to get some harass out on the Medusa, throwing out the Maledict. Yeah, he's being very aggressive there. Techies not quite sure what he's doing. Throwing out a lot of right clicks. He is not afraid to be aggressive. That extra 2 damage from the Fairy Fire really giving him what he needs. Meanwhile, Bloodseeker is a bit low in the jungle. Let's hope that he doesn't get any rotations onto him. He's playing with fire here. Will he win this 1v1? He's suspicious. He knows he can't. Dun-dun. And I missed the first blood. What am I doing? Let's go ahead and check that out. Techies, oh, he's going to go for that suicide. Perfectly executed under the tower. Unfortunately, he will lose his own life to the tower as a result of it, but it's definitely a worthwhile gold trade. 396 for 126 and the XP that comes on top of that. So, nicely done. Good little execution there. Didn't even have a ward up here, so he was just hoping Witch Doctor would keep going along that path instead of walking backwards. They may have had vision of that from the creep wave, actually, so just well executed all around. Slardar in the bot lane, alongside Timbersaw, because apparently Slardar being top wasn't helping too much. If that's where he was earlier, or was he jungling? He does have an Iron Talon. He may have been doing that. I cannot quite remember. Oh, they're going aggressive here. They got the crush onto Ursa. He's backing off towards the Dire side, up into the side shop, salving up. Witch Doctor coming in with the counter rotation. Not much either side can really do here, unless there's a severe overextension. Looks like this is probably going to be kind of even. Oh, but Witch Doctor taking a lot of hits. This guy is dead. Timbersaw comes in. Oh! But Timbersaw, by chaining, pulls himself heavily away from the Witch Doctor and allows Ursa to come in and get some counter damage to scare them both away. There's nothing they can do against this. Witch Doctor gets away scot-free. Popping the Shrine over here. They both needed it. That was an engagement that did not go very well for them. They both lost a lot of mana and a lot of health for it and gained basically nothing out of it. And in that time, they also lost a lot of CS that they could have gotten in lane. So overall, a very poor trade for the Dire. Bottle coming in. Pudge getting his bottle. And his boots. Let's bring up the last hits here. See what's going on. Bloodseeker, of course, the jungler, getting the most last hits just because of the abundance of neutral creep camps. And also the fact that this is probably not an amazingly high-skill game, so having nothing to contest against in your lane, or in this case the jungle, certainly helps. Next up in the CS is Ursa, with his, again, fairly decent lane against just a Timbersaw. Slardar appears to be gone. Where's he rotated off to? He is in the Radiant jungle. What are you doing? Oh, Pudge and Slardar know what they're doing. That's a dead Bloodseeker. Yeah, the Radiant has a severe lack of vision. They've got that mid ward up, but there's nothing in this general area here which should be protecting the Bloodseeker. And again, Ursa did not pay attention to the active gank there. And they just moved right on down to the bot lane and took out him as well. So that's going to put a dent in his farm. I'll have to see how he catches up from that. What's happening up here in the top lane? Let's see. How's Doom's lane going? Well, Doom is level 5, so could be worse for him. He's not getting zoned very well. He's going Midas, and looks like he's going to have that at around the 7-minute mark, 8-minute mark. So for an offlaner, that's pretty good. It's not something you see that much nowadays. Grabbing a Midas in the offlane, it tends to be a bit greedy because your farm's not that great. Techie's going in. The offensive blast off, but not going to be able to secure the kill. Doom gets away with 100 health left, and Techie's nearly dies himself to the tower. Medusa tries to push in, but it's not working out. Pudge just fed. Let's see that in action. Pudge goes for a hook. Ursa pops the ult. The Fury swipes, unleashes that damage, and now we have Timbersaw caught down here under the tower. What's he doing? And Bloodseeker comes in, getting those right clicks off at extremely fast speed because also Medusa and Techies are moderately low health as well. Can he catch up? Is he going to go for the dive? Of course he is. No one is not greedy enough. Gets the bounce. Thanks, Witch Doctor. Now Bloodseeker, can he escape? He's low. Slardar wants it, but he knows he can't catch up. Can he get the lucky bash? No, he cannot. He just need to have bash leveled. Don't know what he was trying for. Just some extra damage out there. Pudge has returned to the bot lane, but he can't really do anything. The fight's over. He arrived way too late. And he's just going to grab the rune and move on. Top lane, Medusa's farm, looking pretty decent. It's not the best. 24 CS at 6.5 minutes. That's subpar, but it's something. Magnus picks up the DD rune. Is he looking to get a play on Pudge here? Pudge is sitting comfortably at 1.1 KHP, 1.2 KHP. So Magnus is probably going to need some support from his team, unless he can get a skewer underneath his tower. But based on where the wave is right now, that looks like it's not going to happen. Gets rotation in from the Witch Doctor. Ooh, Smoke of Deceit is on him. What can he do with this? Can they make something happen? Witch Doctor's walking along the back here. He's waiting for the right opportunity to strike. He comes in, throws out the stun. Maladek comes down, getting those right clicks out. There's the RP. Gonna skewer him back. There it is. No mana left for the Shockwave. That's the name. Dismember comes out, and they turn it around as Slardar rotates in, gets a crush off. Witch Doctor tries to salve it up, but there's nothing he can do. And the Dire make a good trade. Bloodseeker comes in, uses the Rupture on Pudge, but he knows he can't die versus a Slardar as well. It's just too risky, and Pudge is able to just sit still safely and just wait it out. Top lane now. Doom is being pushed into his tower. Medusa farming up. Techie's still there doing, well, Techie's things. Techie's has his soul ring. Going to be doing a bit more active mining now. Bot lane. Ursa's still farming. Timbersaw has his level 6. He's throwing out those chakrams now. Ursa's got to be a bit scared. That's some heavy damage that he can throw out now. That will definitely help with kiting. Bloodseeker wanted to go for a bit of a dive on Timber, but that's not going to happen. He has reactive armor. He has his chain. Unless you've got an ult and a ton of damage, not much you can do, because even if he's ruptured, Bloodseeker walks up to him. That's a Q. That's an R. That's some heavy damage that he'd be throwing out alongside the tower. Too risky to dive. The top lane, dooms the techies. Witch Doctor comes in to help, but there's not much that can happen here. This is not going to be a killing ult. Oh, Medusa baiting the techies' minds into the side chop. One pops. Is he willing to go for a second? It's a risky play. One per hero. Here comes techies. There's the suicide. Denies himself and gets the kill on the Witch Doctor as Doom limps away at very low health. That's close. Magnus rotates in. Not much he can do, though. Ursa TP's mid. Just looking to apply a bit of pressure. Coming through the Radiant jungle now. We have Slardar hopefully going for a rotation. He is coming around the Radiant side of the hill. Pudge gets a hook. Gets the ult off on Ursa while he is ulted, so they kind of negate each other's ults there. Slardar gets the Amplify. Can he get the stun to save his Pudge? He can. Barely in range. Very close. Good play by Slardar. Bit of questioning over the hook's legitimacy as Bloodseeker tries to dive, but gets crushed and dies almost instantly. Just manages to get off the rupture left in his final moments. But 5-man dive now happening under tower. Managed to clean up that Slardar, who was immobilized and placed by that rupture. Timbersaw throwing out his chakram, but taking some decent damage himself from the flame something. Scorched Earth, that's what it's called. Techies mining up his tower to help finalize that push with Medusa. Techies gets that right-click last hit. And Ursa just continues the good old farming habit. Yeah, he's been working towards. Magnus just farming the jungle now with another DD, working towards his blink. He already has his blink. He's working towards Arcanes now. Needs to get some supplementive mana to make sure that he can execute his full combo to its most effectiveness. Pudge and Timber looking to make a play here on the Ursa. Looking for a hook. Can they make it happen? He's going for it. He can't make it happen. Oh. Hook one way, Ursa jukes the other way. Well done. Well done by carrier feed. Good dodge. Magnus pushing in the middle tower. Looks like Pudge is rotating in to try and put a stop to that. Meanwhile, 3 people are farming the Dire jungle. They want to put a bit more of an aggressive play on this. Let's see. Hook comes in. Nope. Hook is going to come in, but the Rupture comes instead. The Skewer-Rupture combination. Putting some heavy damage in. Pudge tries to ult out the Magnus, but gets silenced. Magnus gets taken down, though, by the Slardar in return. Now Timbersaw is diving as well. Is Slardar going to go for the full dive? He is not. He is exiting. He knows he cannot take this on. Here comes Doom. Is he planning on engaging? No. Not a risk he's worth taking. Not a risk he finds worth taking. It's Medusa's build. Medusa is rushing an early Lincolns. Probably a good choice versus Bloodseeker. And Doom. Just want to make sure that those 2 heroes that just pop a single ult and have you kind of boned or just not as much of an issue. And that can kind of clear up the rest of the game. You can play a bit more lightheaded. Those heroes are not as much of a threat. Techie's thrown out the casual. Woot woot. I think the question is why? He denied himself. No kill along with it. Maybe he was escaping death from the clutches of Magnus here. But don't know the full story on that. Witch Doctor coming in for rotation behind the Slardar. No words to see it coming. Magnus comes in. What's the story? There's the stun. Teleport instantly coming in from Techies. He wants to come and try and help, but that's too far of a walk for him to do much. Maledict doing severe damage. RP is contributed. Ooh, very low health. Can he get a bash? No bash. And they both barely make it away. Techies misses the blast off, but does get the remote mine activation on the Witch Doctor, which will drop him to 0, securing a counter kill. Medusa, ruptured, teleporting out versus Bloodseeker. Not enough. The Bloodseeker and Ursa combined damage. Nothing that could really be done about that. Techies is applying a lot of pressure on the Radiant off lane here. Pudge comes in with the hook. Dismember comes in. Chakram comes in. And the combined damage of the two of them is too much for Doom to handle. Yeah, landmines, wards, stasis traps, remote mines. This is some heavy aggression here in this top lane from Techies. Fight going on. What's going on here? Witch Doctor is being taken down, as well as Pudge. 1-for-1 trade. Slaughter blinks away. Bloodseeker tries to engage on that, but nothing he can do. He's not fast enough to outrun instant teleportation that we call blinking. The fight is over as quick as it started, or is it not? Ursa is trying to re-engage on the Slardar, who used his crush and missed. But with the amplified damage on, that tower is doing some heavy damage. And the Blink Crush comes in, and the Chakram finishes off Ursa. Forlf, says the Ursa. Yes, are they so farm? Let's see. Cane Boots and Soul Ring. It's not that much. That's about average. Voidstone. Okay, it's decent. Slaughter. Blink and Treads. Okay, I'm not sure if I would consider that, quote, so farm, but, you know, I guess it's all a matter of perspective. Okay. That was interesting. Techies goes for the blast off and the remote mine detonation in the top lane, but it's not nearly enough to take down Doom's full strength hero stature. RP comes out on the Pudge as well as an Ursa ult to secure some extra damage in there. 2 taken out for the Dire. Then a Rupture on the Timbersaw. Can they make it 3 taken out? Oof. Timber Chain just ends up doing more damage for the Rupture. Medusa ults to try and save him, but it is not enough. Here comes Slardar. Blinks past him. Misses any crush opportunity that he had. Here comes an extra one on the Witch Doctor, though. Right-click damage coming in on the Witch Doctor, but he's healing it all off. Meanwhile, Ursa dives the tower, getting some Fury Swipe stacks onto that Medusa, and it is enough to secure a 4th kill in this extra long engagement. Techies lands a Stasis Mine, places one down, so Ursa has to leave the area. Blinks back, gets another kill down. Bloodseeker, however, was taken down by the Slardar on the Radiant side of things in this whole engagement. So, quite the collection of trades here, but it was definitely in the Radiant's favor overall. Definitely helping them catch up now. Let's go ahead and take a look at that handy dandy gold graph. Look at that, it was about even. Boom, that just flew right up. XP, about the same. Same kind of thing. Checking the Roshan for Ursa, but he is simply farming the Radiant Ancients up here. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, we have Magnus farming, pushing out that wave. He is working towards... We do not know. He has nothing in his quick buy. But he has his Arcane Boost finished. Perhaps a Force Staff? We'll have to see. Only time will tell. Dusa still working on that Linken's. Our farm has not really gone anywhere in the past 5 minutes or so, which is very unfortunate. That is nothing really being done there. If you're not getting farm as carry, you're failing your goal. No objectives being taken. That's just Medusa just losing out on time, putting them behind. Yep, going for the Echo Saber on Slardar. Bloodseeker picking up a Yules. Ooh, interesting. Wants to get rid of that Amplify. Not sure what the deal is with that. I actually do not know the reasoning behind that build. Maybe we will see it put into action. Perhaps it is to purge off the silence of Techies? I will not try and theory craft that any further, for I cannot pinpoint reasoning behind it. Magnus, low health and mana. Slaughter, Blink Crush, Amplify, Bash, 1 hit. 1 more hit to kill him, but Magnus is trying to flee away. The sprint coming in, Magnus blinks away, but Slaughter's going to have his own sprint up. Doesn't even need it. Walks straight through the trees. Smacks Magnus 1 last time, and he's dead. Bot lane pushing in, but he flees, fearing the team's rotations. Techi's trying to push in, but gets doomed by the Shadow-Bladed Doom. That is a very dead Techies. Doom, Maledict, too much DOT to handle. 3 heroes focusing him down. A 4th comes in, which is Ursa. Fury Swipe's ready to go, but instead he blinks upwards towards the Roshan. Goes for it. Now the Dire can see this. They do have a mine there. But the question is, are they planning to engage this? Can they do anything about it? Pudge comes in, goes for the hook, gets it long distance. Ursa ults, 80% damage reduction, preventing that Dismember from killing him. Gets bashed by Roshan on the way out, and that lets him get caught by Slardar with the DD and the Crush. Timbersaw's ruptured, throws out a Chakra, but not much he can do as he takes too much damage from Bloodseeker to be able to do anything effectively. Doom getting hit by that double damage Slardar. 1 hit on the Witch Doctor. Techies comes in with the explosion, finishing off the Doom. Very good trade by the Dire there. Catching out that Ursa, stopping that early Roshan, and now going to secure a tower in the process, most likely, unless Magnus can do something absolutely crazy with this RP. But if he has any sense of sanity left, he's not going to be doing such a thing. It appears Slardar actually wants to go for the kills, misses a Crush on the Bloodseeker. Now he's taking heavy right-click damage in return. So instead of the tower, they're going for some aggression here, but they can't really afford this aggression. Witch Doctor's back already. He's throwing out some spells. A hook by the Pudge. Skewered over by Magnus. Medusa ults. Techies ults in. Does some heavy damage to the Bloodseeker. Not enough. Ursa doing heavy damage to Slardar now. Buyback from Magnus. He's on his way back. Slardar ends up being killed by the Ursa after too much damage was pressured out. Dusa TP's out. Doom coming in. What can he do with his invisibility? Nothing much. Timber chains up onto the high ground by the Ancients. Under the Radiant Shrine now. Magnus and Doom going in on this Pudge, but he's pushed away from the team. Can they do enough damage to finish him off? And Ursa secures it.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Timber has an invis rune, but a smoke is popped by the Radiant. What are they going to do with this? Ooh, Remote Mines pop and a Shock Room to finish him off, and there goes Magnus, who is now respawning from a buyback. That's going to be a while that he's out, and Ursa now decides he can safely go for this Roshan with 2 of the Radiant heroes dead. Sorry, what am I thinking? Ursa's on Dire. He decides he can go for a Roshan with 2 of his teammates dead, and he just barely manages to secure that Roshan at low health, get that Aegis, and then the Doom comes in onto Slardar. Finishes him off. Rupture comes in onto the Timbersaw, tries to TP out, but there's just too much damage coming in too fast. He'll drop as well. Throwing out a classic Lamau. Carry your feed. Sportsmanship right there.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
Techies tries to go for the deny against Ursa, but just too much damage too fast. His flying corpse ends up doing the damage and the silence, but at that point Techies has already given up the gold, which is what Ursa was there for. Radiant looking to push the mid-tier 1. It's very low. Can they do anything with this? Can they get this? Yep, that damage coming in too fast. There's the Fortify, however. Tower left very low. Blink in from Ursa immediately into the root of the stasis trap. Stun from Witch Doctor. Meanwhile, Ursa blinks on the Pudge. Can't do anything. There's a reverse polarity on a creep. Ends up blocking himself in. He's not hit a single hero with it. Stuns onto the Slaughter. Slaughter stuns back against 2, but Witch Doctor brings in the Death Ward and brings out the fatal damage. Timbersaw tries to reinitiate in, but not much he can do there. There's too many heroes for him to be able to do too much aggression there, so they decide to back out. Medusa comes in with the Stone Gaze, forcing all the heroes back. Pudge goes in for a hook, misses, brings Dusa back, and they get the final right-click onto that Witch Doctor. Doom is spectating the area from invisibility, but there's nothing they can do safely there. Bloodseeker's brought very low. Whew! Techies barely gets away there. That was close. Luckily he had a team there to follow up on. Ursa is leaving low health and low mana. Not a fight he's willing to take now. Shrining up, ready to get back into the fight. Meanwhile, Medusa is pushing that tier 1, and the Radiant tier 1 is going to drop as well. Or is it? There's no way it's not. Doom wants to deny, and he gets it with his superior attack speed from the Hyperstone. And the Midas, of course. Can't forget that. Value. He's going the early Force Staff build, not rushing an Aghanim Scepter, which was almost always a necessity to rush before 7.0, but now with the reworked techies, the proximity mines do enough damage to clear a wave on their own, so you don't need that Aghanim Scepter for farming. You can be a bit more lenient in your build and go things like Force Staff if you need the early aggression to force enemies onto your mines. Radiant looks to push the top tier 1 tower, but some pings coming out to defend it. Hook comes out, misses the Bloodseeker. Instead, a paralyzing cast comes in, bounces onto Pudge, off of him, and back onto him. He gets ruptured and maledicted. Techie's suicide. Techie's not suicide. He dies to the Bloodseeker. Meanwhile, Witch Doctor gets a kill onto the Pudge. That heavy Death Ward damage coming out. Extra coming out onto Medusa. Not enough to do too much. Doom very low. Can he get picked off by Timber? No. Ursa picks off the Timber. Just eats through him with those Fury swipes. Now 3 Radiant heroes converging onto the Medusa. Medallion of Courage down. Extra minus armor for those Fury swipes. Emptying that mana for the mana shield. Slaughter blinks in, crushes, and takes out the Witch Doctor. Respawn in the Aegis. Taking out both Magnus. Whew. And the Slaughter in the process. So, both teams basically evaporated there. Aegis used Ultra Kill for the Ursa. And now just a bit of friendly banter between teams. Top tower, very, very low. Ursa's hoping to get that last hit. Can he time it correctly? Let's see. Yes, he can. Yules on the Timbersaw. Yules on the Bloodseeker. Bloodseeker now going for a Lotus Orb. Seems to be going for a very defensive build. Pudge has his Blink and his Aether Lens. He's a bit of a farmed guy, although that being a position 2. What else would you expect? Ursa has his Basher, and he is now working towards his Abyssal Blade, it appears. Yep. Finishing that Vanguard, and then he just needs the recipe for it, which is probably on the Courier. Yep, there it is. Alright, both the teams seem to be gathering around the mid lane. Can we expect a fight here? Are they looking to group? Are they looking to push? What's the plan? Pudge coming up on 2.5k HP. Flesh Heap starting to come in. Level 4. It's pretty good. What's the plan? All the Radiant heroes here are kind of just clumped up. Are they going to make a play, or are they going to push for a tier 1? Bot tier 1 is still up and low. Ooh, RP comes out to try and save his own life, but Magnus gets used and dies to the Chakram. Poor guy. Ursa comes in with the Blink. Gets counter-crushed. Slaughter trying to flee. He knows there's not much he can do here. Timber just gets out, saves his own life. Abyssal Blade comes in. And in combination with that Blood Right and the Fury Swipes damage that comes out, there was nothing that Slaughter could do there. Looks like we're setting up for a team fight here in the bot lane. That tier 1 tower is certain to drop. Hook comes out, doesn't hit anything. Ooh, Bloodseeker, Force-staffed in, gets a rupture onto the Timbersaw, but Timbersaw is backing off, and Bloodseeker cannot afford to chase that far. Hook from Pudge onto the Witch Doctor. Dismember comes out, and he is dead, but Medusa drops to the Ursa extremely fast. Still very underfarmed to that Medusa, not being able to do anything with much effect. Ursa getting those swipes onto that Pudge, just eating through his Flesh Heap health as if it's nothing. And now with a 4-for-1 trade, the Radiant can very effectively push onto that bottom tower. Yeah, Mr. Michael Trotsky here does not see anything that he can do here. Just throwing out the occasional shock to try and slow down the Radiant. So Mr. Piggy and Carrier feed back off as AV rotates in for the support. Doom still lingering though with the invisibility. Starts to engage onto the Slaughter, but Slaughter is sprinting away. No Doom ult available. Ursa tries to dive on that techies, but no lucky bash for him, unfortunately, so he will be TPing to the shrine, get some mana, and try again. And back into the short farming period that happens in between team fights, of course. Medusa still working. Nope, Medusa has Lincolns. Medusa also has a Dragon Lance and a Yasha. Okay, so her farm has caught up a decent amount. Disconnect from the Magnus. He returns to base, making it an effective 4v5 unless the Radiant wants to pause. Okay, so the Radiant seems to be converging around the middle area here, but are they just farming? We will not know. Pudge gets a hook onto Blitzkrieg, but then Ursa, Carrier Feed, jumps in and slams him down. Abyssal Blade dropping Pudge's health low, and Bloodseeker manages to live. Timber trying to help out in that fight, but as pretty much the entire Radiant team converges on Pudge, there's nothing they could do. He drops. Game's still a 4v5, but Radiant is nonetheless aggressive. Large Mind Stack here. Not enough to take out Doom, though, with his massive strength gain. Magnus still disconnected, and no pause seems to be in the works. We'll see if they change their minds and do a pause eventually, but as for right now, nothing's happening. Ursa gets the bash, cancels the Medusa TP out from the top lane, and this looks to be a very dead Medusa. 1v3, Stone Gaze is popped to try and zone away the Radiant team, and it looks like it manages to lend her escape. Ursa blinks on her, but the Stone Gaze still in effect. He does end up getting stunned still. Doom comes out onto Slardar, as Slardar dies to... as Doom dies to Slardar. He dropped the Doom was a defensive Doom, it appears, but nothing came of it. Slaughter blinks, crushes onto the Ursa. Ursa ults, dropping the Slaughter, dropping the techies, not dropping the techies, close. Death Ward comes in for some extra damage, but not able to finish anyone off on its own. Rupture onto the techies, but he uses Blast Off to get the deny. Pudge gets a hook onto Blitzkrieg the Bloodseeker and finishes him off. Paralyzing Cast coming in, but not going to do anything of effect.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
Ursa is planning a Roshan. He's going for it. Now this is the second Roshan of the game. Looks like they are microing the disconnected Magnus to farm, not actually bothering to pause, but they are still getting him his experience and his gold. Ursa finishing off Roshan, one more hit. There he drops. Aegis claimed. Timber with the Lincoln's Yules build. Gotta be honest, that's not something I see that often. But they really want that anti-Doom, that anti-Rupture, because those spells from the Radiant really just lock them down hard, and Timber's all about keeping constant mobility. Looks like the Radiant is just sifting back into a farming pattern. Magnus is back. Okay, good. Back into the 5v5. Was hoping he wasn't going to abandon. That would have been a bit... Oh, nope, there he goes again. Spoke too soon. Oop, Infernal Blade coming onto the techies. He uses Blast Off at just above 50% health, and he is brought into perfect range for a kill by Ursa. Now there is a small stack of Techie's mines, but that is not going to be able to kill anyone other than perhaps the Witch Doctor. Techie's knows this, he's not detonating it. Stasis traps everywhere are annoying the Radiant team, but not doing much in terms of lethality. Is that a word? Letha. I don't know. Oh, Doom spots the Slaughter, gets the initiating Doom, but that's it. No Infernal Blade, no Ursa Abyssal. Just lets the Doom happen and tick away at his health while he sits off to the sidelines. Radiant team pressing onto this tier 2 tower. Pudge gets a hook, but blinks out. He is not ready to 1v1 an Ursa in close combat. Paralyzing Cast comes out onto the techies and gets Abyssal Bladed and killed fast. Lotus Orb ult comes out blocking the Pudge ult, but Bloodseeker still manages to drop to the combined effects of the Slaughter and the Pudge. Ursa comes in now with the bashes, evaporating that Slaughter. Timbersaw just manages to escape. Stone Gaze now zoning out the Radiant team. They have to back off. Pudge comes in for a follow-up hook, but misses narrowly between Witch Doctor and Doom. Ursa blinks in, but the Chakram and the Stasis Trap are keeping him back and away from the team. Hook comes in, narrowly misses. Multiple Radiant members. Ursa wants to engage to follow up that missed hook, but is not able to do anything with it. The Dire Ward sees him coming. Aegis only lasts for 2 more minutes, so they're going to have to do something with this fast if they want to make effective use of it. A hook onto the Witch Doctor successfully by that crazy Honey Badger. Dismember comes out, just barely enough damage with the help of Medusa to finish off the Witch Doctor, but then Pudge drops to the Ursa. RP comes out onto... Wow. Radiant with the Wombo combo, dropping 4. Timbersaw is low. Can they catch up to him? Magnus is chasing. Blinks on. Gets the Shockwave, but the health regen is just barely keeping him alive, and he manages to escape into the base to shrine up. But still, 4 have dropped. Slaughter is alive again. But with only 2 to defend against the Radiant's 5, can they save this tier 3 tower? Well, Pudge is alive in 2 seconds. Let's see what he can do. Ursa getting very greedy, diving. Tier 4, Slaughter blink crushes in onto the Doom, but then 4 staffs out. He is not ready to make a committed engagement there. Radiant takes the tier 3. Ursa blinks in Abyssal Blades, ults onto the Slaughter. The Shrine is now popped though, healing Slaughter from within that battle. Medusa uses Stone Gaze before getting doomed, and it looks like Doom's health is going to drop now. Techie's Blast Offs in, silences up the Ursa, and Ursa gets dismembered. Aegis popped, Death Ward coming in, dealing some decent damage to the Pudge. Magnus tries to follow up there, but there's not much that he can do with his low mana. Pudge hooks the Ursa back in, past the tier 3. Stasis Trap, not doing too much there. Witch Doctor drops. Bloodseeker very low, running towards the Dire tier 4s, looking to just give his death a little less value, and he manages to do such a thing as that. So the Dire middle tier 3 was lost, but Techies does not notice the Magnus walking over his mines and gives up an easy kill. Techies, Medusa, Pudge pushing in. Techies getting some aggressive mines up to help assist their push. Ursa blinks in, starts hitting that Medusa, but the mana shield is negating the majority of his damage. Dismember comes in, but is immediately stopped. Pudge going in on the Magnus, gets a hook. No ult available, but Techies drops to the Ursa, who is quick on his feet. Pudge gets another hook, finishing off that Magnus. Now going in on the Witch Doctor, but not going to have enough time to finish him off. He is. He manages to take Witch Doctor before dying himself to the Ursa. Slaughter now working in combination with Medusa, who's trying to use a Stone Gaze to keep Ursa away from his own base, but doesn't take any damage and manages to blink out. But the Dire team manages to catch up. RP comes in on Timber and Medusa. Ursa healing up and taking out that Slaughter. Ursa ults, 80% damage reduction, letting him do extra damage to that Medusa. Gets the ultra kill. Ursa lives. Timber fleeing. He's going to make it away. Teleports out. The Radiant turned it around. 4 heroes dead. The bear does not want to die. And Techies just delays the push, popping those remote mines to kill the wave. And stall the Radiant an extra 30 seconds. Bloodseeker taking the vulnerable top Dire Shrine because of the lack of the middle tier 2 now. Pudge gets a hook on him just before it dies, and the Dismember along with the Chakram is enough to finish him off. And he denies the Shrine, which is a useless move, because you do not deny any gold to the enemy by taking that yourself. It still gives the full 750 split across the enemy team. Yeah, Ursa acknowledges that and gives him a classic Lamau. Ursa being aggressive. Blinks, Bloodthorns, Abyssals onto the Pudge, but the Haste Rune letting him get away and then Shrine up to heal himself. The Crush, the Yules. Ursa's at half. Ult is down. And he is going to finally drop to the combined efforts of the Slaughter, the Pudge, and the Timber. Now going on the Witch Doctor. Can they slow him? Crush. Few right clicks, and he drops as well. 3 dead on the Radiant. Now they're looking to come take a bot tier 2. Or they're going to rotate through the mid lane and just go straight for that middle tier 2. Their choice is what they have to prioritize. Looks like Pudge is sticking around bot. That's where he wants to push. But the rest of his team has another idea, going for that tier 2 very low. Get a proximity mine on that. Blink Crush onto the Doom from AV. Remote mine doing some extra damage, but not too much. Doom popped onto Slaughter. Techies comes in, blast off, bringing him down to like 20% HP. And he dies there. Stone Gaze used, zoning out the Radiant team now. Timbersaw manages to get away. Both Doom and Magnus frozen by the Stone Gaze. Death Ward coming in for some extra damage onto the Medusa, but it is not doing too much. Can Witch Doctor get away with his ethereal form? No, he's not going to be able to do much. Finished off by Slaughter. Dismember comes in, finishing off the Magnus, and then Doom drops to the Slaughter in the same moment. 4 of the Radiant are dead. Only Bloodseeker is alive. Where did this guy escape to? He's TPing out from the bot lane. And Pudge is getting a bit tanky here. His Ag's getting those 4-second hooks. Dusa casually farming up the top lane. Bloodseeker getting picked off outside of his base. He should not be there with 2 of his team dead alongside him.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
Dire starting to pressure this middle lane, getting some damage on it. Is there anything they can do? Ursa, not paying attention, gets Blink dismembered by the Pudge, but then gets purged by the Ursa Aghanim's ult. And it looks like there's just going to be some even trade of damage here, but not too much actually done. Ursa and Witch Doctor shrining up, making sure that they're sustained at full health. Blink Crush from the Slaughter, but turned around by the Abyssal. Completely destroyed by Slaughter, but then Pudge gets a hook and an ult onto that Witch Doctor, finishing him off. Ursa's the only one alive. What can he do against these 4 living Dire heroes? A Bloodthorn onto the melee creep. Well done, Ursa. Radiant tier 3 drops. RP comes out onto Pudge and onto Techies, gets skewered back. Techies drops. Bloodthorn onto the Pudge and the Doom. Getting absolutely destroyed by the Basher from Ursa. 3 dead on the Dire. Timbersaw retreating once again. Buyback from the Techies. He wants to start defending his base. He's worried. 2 remote mines. Not too much. Not too much. Versus that 3.2k health Ursa. About the same Doom. You're going to need at least 6 remote mines at this level. Ursa initiates in Bloodthorn on the Timbersaw. Lets him take out the Techies with that Timber severely gimped. Throwing out the Chakrams to clear out the creep wave. Try to zone out that Ursa, but he's not doing that much. Damage starting to come out onto the ranged racks and the melee racks. Hitting that ranged. Dropped to half health. Almost. Stone Gaze. Zoning out that Radiant team. Dismember comes out, but it gets stopped immediately by the Bloodthorn. Ursa ult. So many ults happening. My goodness, I can't even tell what's going on. Deuce is silenced by the Bloodright. Timbersaw comes in, finishes off. No one. What am I saying? Pudge drops. Techies drops. It's a bit crazy. Magnus is dead. Shrine trying to heal Medusa and give her a bit extra mana. A second Shrine now. Dire is being dove really deep. Ursa and Doom now working on that middle melee racks. Fortification comes out. Ursa dropping in health. Blink Crush from the Slaughter. Lodotorb on him. 1 Chakram. Paralyzing Cask. Slaughter now chasing the Doom who had dove too deep into the base. But Timber drops as well. Timber buys back. He knows he has to be in this fight to help save his barracks. Ursa fleeing at low health and mana. Ethereal Blade. Witch Doctor tries to TP out but gets Blink Crush just before he can make it out, and he drops to the Timber Chakram as that last hit. And with 2 buybacks spent, the Dire manages to save their barracks.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
Bottom lane pushing in. Bloodseeker wants to put a stop to that. Deuce's farm getting pretty heavy now. Working on that melee racks. Is the Radiant team going to put a stop to this, or are they going to let that melee drop? It's getting low. Proximity Mine nearly finishes it off. Deuce gets stunned. Deuce gets Bloodthorned. That melee racks is very low. Can they get it? Chakram comes in, working to do extra damage onto that Witch Doctor, but then the RP comes out onto Medusa and onto Slaughter. Only Medusa gets skewered in, however, to the tier 4s. Abyssal Blade comes out onto the Slaughter from the Ursa, doing heavy damage to him. Dismember comes out onto the Bloodseeker. Ursa working hard to finish off that Slaughter, but there's just not enough damage. Slaughter manages to get away, and Ursa drops. Ursa buys back. Death Ward coming out onto the Medusa, doing some heavy damage, or not. Working to stop that mana shield. Ursa is back. He's doing damage. Now Bloodthorn onto Medusa. Not enough damage to finish her off. Now getting those bashes, that heavy damage from the Fury Swipes onto Timbersaw. Magnus nearly dies to the Chakram. Doesn't manage to die, though. Doom comes out onto the Timbersaw, eliminating him from the fight, but he already had no mana anyways. He wouldn't have been doing that much, but just it's a safety precaution. Techies drops. Pudge is down. What is happening? Ursa finishes off the Timbersaw, who is now down with no buyback. Techies down, no buyback as well. In fact, the only person in the entire game that has buyback right now is Medusa. No one else has bothered to save up for it. Ursa's used his. Pudge has used his. Timber and Slaughter have used theirs. And Techies. 5 people have buyback on cooldown right now, but 4 of the other 5 that aren't on cooldown simply don't have the gold for it. Oh, now Doom does as well. Okay, so he manages to just pick that up just in time for that push now. That's some risky business. Backdoor protection on the Dire barracks because there are no creeps anywhere nearby. And the Dire is pushing this team out of the base now. They can't push that. They don't have a wave. Hook comes out, misses the Witch Doctor that it was appeared to be going for. Ursa blinks in, Abyssal Blades on the Slaughter. Not enough damage though. Dismember comes out onto the Ursa. RP onto Medusa and Techies, keeping them out of the fight for a few seconds. Ursa gets hooked out. Blink Crush onto the Magnus, amplified damage. Blast Off finishes off the Magnus. He is out of this fight. Witch Doctor doing Death Ward damage. Out Medusa's health dropping, but then Witch Doctor drops the Proximity Mine. Bloodseeker finished off. Ursa very low health. Is he going to die here? He drops. Ursa's down. No buyback. Slaughter very low health. He gets finished off as well. Pudge barely making it back into the base. The majority of both teams are dead. Medusa bought back. Medusa did buy back, yes. Keeping that Doom out of the base and preventing the barracks from being taken. Doom is the only person left alive on the team. There's nothing he can do here. He's lost his Ursa. No buyback on that Ursa. Again, Doom is the only person in the game with buyback right now. Pinging out the Roshan from Timbersaw. Not sure how they think a Doom and a Witch Doctor can be taking it alone, unless they themselves want to take it, but I do not believe they have enough damage right now. Chakram no longer affects Roshan, so it would be a poor choice for him to try and take it alone. Yep, Timber. Can't do that. Chakram doesn't affect Roshan yet with the patch notes. Or actually, is it? And I'm just... Looks like it is. I might be going crazy. Could have sworn that Arcane Orb and Chakram no longer affect it, but it looks like it's actually doing some decent damage there. Dire pick up that Aegis. Who's it going to go towards? Medusa. Alright, Medusa's starting to carry pretty hard now, so putting a double life on her is probably the best option. Lincoln's, Manta, Butterfly, Dragonlance. Pretty good. Bonus 111 strength on the Pudge. Ursa complaining about the balance of the game as he plays Ursa, who is one of the heaviest pub stompers in the 3K bracket. I assume this game has to be around 3K, right? Seems about the skill level. Could be wrong. Deuce looking to finish off that ranged barracks on the Radiant. Mid lane, dropping low. Medusa getting a few more right clicks, getting dangerously close to that Radiant team, but just managing to do the last poke damage that needs to be done. And the middle lane is now empty for the Radiant. Dire backs off. They don't want to continue this engagement in a 5v5 now onto the high ground. Pudge goes for a hook. Gets Bloodthorned, doomed, and his entire health bar just drops so fast to that Ursa. He buys back immediately. He Boots of Travels back in. He wants to be a part of this fight. He wants to make sure this engagement happens now. Ult onto Bloodseeker. 4-man RP. Wow, that was fantastic. Magnus, well done, dropping that Slaughter. He can't do a thing. Medusa's getting low health. That Aegis is about to be popped. Bloodseeker's dead, but Ursa about to make Techies be dead as well. Yep, Techies is goner. He is a goner. Medusa now fleeing on the second life. What can be done? Magnus body blocking the Medusa. What does he have? Not too much. Can these 4 versus the 1 pin down this Medusa? Slaughter misses the... Ursa misses the blink and the slow. And now Magnus is stuck in the trees. Well done, Magnus. Skewer's out. Wants to chase his Medusa, but there's nothing he can do. Medusa has escaped. Medusa's gotten away with that. Scot-free. Aegis dropped, but not dead herself. And now, the 4 remaining Radiant heroes look to push towards the mid lane. And then Techies gets rid of the Witch Doctor right then and there. And very nearly removes Magnus from the equation as well. That was close. And there goes Magnus too. And what was looking like a fantastic push for the Radiant is immediately negated by the fact that they have 0 true sight. What's Pudge picking up? Nothing? Oh, he picked up a Reaver. Pudge now at 5.5k health. What even? This is getting crazy. Doom up into the 4k range now with his heart. And Ursa nearing that 4k range as well, but probably not going to hit it. He doesn't look to have any extra room for another item. Just going to get Boots of Travel.
A soldier's fortune.
What's the plan next? What are these teams trying to do? There seems to be a severe lack of dire vision on the map. They only have a single ward right here. That's about all they got. So if they want to do a smoke gank or some sort of initiation onto the Radiant team, they're not going to have much information to use. They're going to have to go at it blind. Dire takes out that top Radiant Shrine, finishing that off. Should have done that a while ago, but better late than never. Techies applying the Trail of Tears tactic, throwing remote mines down the mid lane in succession to clear out those creep waves as they come and prevent the backdoor protection from ever being broken. Bloodseeker buys the Smokes of Deceits. He wants to make a play. Now what is that play going to be? Witch Doctor finally sharpens up, buys a Gem of True Sight. Maybe they can actually get a successful push out of this. He's not holding the gem, however. Who is? No one's holding the gem. The gem is on the courier. The gem is in the base. Witch Doctor does not want to be the one to carry it. Smoke of Deceit popped on the Radiant team. Where are they going to go? They see a Dusa. They want the Dusa. Counter Blink Crush in by Slaughter onto the Witch Doctor. He's eliminated. RP by Magnus onto the Pudge and onto the... I can't even tell who that is. That's a doomed Medusa. Magnus BKB comes out. Ursa ult. Trying to drop that Medusa's health bar. Getting very low. The mana is nearly gone. And then Medusa's going to be very, very vulnerable. Bloodseeker dropping very low and eliminated. Timbersaw uses the cheese. Gets healed back up. Blast off by the techies. Doom drops. Ursa buys back. Bloodseeker buys back. Looking like a very, very, very successful fight for the Dire. They had dropped 5, 2 bot back. 5-0 fight. Now they're going to have to take another 5v2. But this shouldn't be that difficult for the Dire. They can handle this. The thing about the Dire's draft is they don't have any really big team fightals. Aside from Stone Gaze, everything they have is relatively low cooldown. Abyssal Blade comes out onto Medusa. Ursa trying to drop Medusa, but just too much health for that to happen. Blink Crush onto the Doom. Dismember coming out onto the Ursa. Timbersaw dropping low as he is now in the base. Bloodseeker very fast, wants to get that finishing right click onto Timbersaw. He does. Pudge just barely escaping, very low health. Timbersaw buys back. Is he coming back? He doesn't have Boots of Travel, so he's TPing to the nearest shrine and he's going to walk back. Bloodseeker, very fast health, manages to finish off the Slaughter. Techies now fling. Is there anything he can do? He goes for the TP, but the Doom Infernal Blade manages to stop that and bring Techie's life there to a close.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Radiant Tier 4 is being pressured by these catapults in this creep wave. Someone's going to have to come back for this. Now Radiant working on the Dire Shrines. Way overdue. That's their bottom shrine gone. Heavy creep wave in the mid lane. Anyone going to do anything about that? Or are they going to let these Tier 4s rot? Doom farming. Bloodseeker farming. Ursa farming. Witch Doctor warding. Okay, Magnus in base. He's their defense plan now. Pudge coming up on 6.4k HP. Wow. That's absurd. That is absolutely absurd. Magnus with the BKB and Shivas. He's getting some decent farm. Bloodseeker Not the most farm there. You know, bit of an odd build. Force Staff, Yule's Lotus Orb. He's playing the odd utility Bloodseeker. Witch Doctor, Solar Crest, Geometrucite. Ghost Scepter, yeah, he's going the full, just don't die. Just help out my team build. Roshan, not yet respawned. Dire doesn't know this, so they were checking just to make sure. And what's the Radiant team doing? Their group top is 4. Witch Doctor, going AFK. Nope, he's denying that regen rune. Excellent play by the Witch Doctor there. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Top lane, spotted out the Medusa, tries to TP out. Rupture gets stopped by the Skewer and the Abyssal Blade. Medusa's dropping fast. And suddenly, the Dire hard carry is dead. 2 minutes down, buyback available. Gonna be very surprised if this isn't ending up being used. If this will not end up being used. So now what's the Radiant gonna do? They're approaching, the top lane is 5. 5v4, no Medusa, who is a very, very strong teamfight element of the Dire's draft. The wave's coming in. Medusa buys back. Pudge goes for a hook, misses, brings a catapult towards him instead.
Is under attack.
Techies working on those Radiant tier 3s and taunting them, drawing back the Magnus and the Bloodseeker and putting a stop to that push. Techies does drop. He's dead, but he brought that tower down halfway. Now the Dire is chasing out the remainder of the Radiant team that is left in the top lane. Roshan's alive. Slaughter suggests just leaving the Radiant team and going for that Roshan, but there are other plans in mind by the rest of his team. Double Chakrams coming out, dropping no one. The Chakrams aren't even doing that much, lowering down the Ursa, but rather instead Pudge gets dropped by the Doom, and now Ursa's dead. Medusa has taken down Ursa, who is dead with no buyback. Blink Crush stops the Doom, stops the Bloodseeker. They're dead. Magnus, Doom, Witch Doctor make it back to base alive, but
Radiant's
the
bottom
Dire now a very aggressive position to be taking these lanes.
structures are fortified.
Blink Crush, amplify damage onto the Doom, but he has just too much health and armor to be taken down that easily. Bot tier 3 being taken, Techies buys back. He wants to put some additional pressure into this lane. Doom gets very close, and he is having some heavy damage being dealt to him by the Timber Saw. Low mana on the Timber. Techies using the proximity mines to deal heavy damage to the barracks alongside Medusa's right clicks. Meanwhile, Slaughter trying to take out the diving Timber Saw and Slaughter. Pudge blink ults. Oh, double crush from the Slaughter. Triple RP in the Radiant base. Very well done by the Magnus, but can they finish anyone off here? No, Slaughter manages to get away. The maledicted Pudge is fleeing. Will he drop? Not at this rate. Timbersaw trying to get away as well. Pudge is going to make it out alive as Slaughter blink crushes in to try and stop the Doom. Slaughter's low. He knows he has to flee. Instead, just tries to stick around and 1v1 the Doom. Not his best work, and he will drop. Meanwhile, top lane, Medusa taking out that last top melee barrack. Can they get the ranged racks for the Mega Creeps? Techies wants it. Techies wants it. And that is Mega Creeps for the Dire.
Has fallen. The Dire
Dismember from the Witch Doctor. Techies did drop to the Maledict. Ursa and Bloodseeker still dead for another 15-20 seconds. Pudge and Doom in a little 1v1 up in the top lane. Pudge brings him back, and now Timbersaw and Pudge are working him down with a scythe, keeping him locked down. Ursa's here, finally alive, blinks in, Abyssal Blades, onto the Pudge. Pudge denies himself, but Pudge is still dead as a result. Satanic at full health Ursa, for no particular reason, with no one even nearby. Now Bloodseeker is working on pushing out that bot lane, which is going to start pushing in very heavily with the Mega Creeps. There they are on their way. Now, what does Radiant do in a situation like this? Trying to defend that base. They do have enough push for it. Looks like it's not going to be overwhelming. Just a significant annoyance to their defense now. What's the plan? What's the plan? Witch Doctor's AFK. Nope, he's moving. Magnus, you gonna do anything? Magnus is AFK too. Okay, nope, working on that refresher orb. 150 gold away. Tier 4 is dropping to the Mega Creeps. What are you guys doing? Gotta defend that. Magnus now trying to defend that. Notice it's a bit too late. One of their tier 4s drops. Other one's at half health. Bloodseeker comes back. Hey, what are you guys doing here? Letting our tier 4 drop. I'm pushing out the bot lane. You guys gotta watch for that kind of thing. Timber and Pudge coming in the bot lane. They want to pick alongside these Megas. They're looking to be aggressive here. But instead the Paralyzing Cast comes out. Yule's onto the Pudge. Bloodright comes in. Pudge is silenced, but Bloodseeker has to flee in the Scythe. Solo RP onto Pudge. But is anything going to happen here? Skewer misses the Pudge, and he walks away. RP wasted. Well, the question here is, what is the Radiant's game plan? It's very difficult what they have to do here. Probably their best option here is to just keep just sustaining against the Mega Creeps, stay near the base, try and use a smoke to get an aggressive ward out, maybe here or here if they can. But they got to be careful doing such a thing. They'd have to go together to do that. Be careful of any possible engagement. They don't know that the Dire is out this far taking Roshan. So to them, Dire could be anywhere in here, ready to get a kill to anyone that's stupid enough to leave the base. So it's a very risky decision for them to make. So they're just going to have to wait for the Dire to come to them and hopefully turn the tides on them in their base high ground in the fight. But is it even high ground at this point? We're mostly going to be fighting back along this area here. Dire will just walk straight up onto the high ground and then it'll be even. Medusa picks up Aegis. Cheese goes to no one. Is the cheese still there? The cheese is still there. Okay. Medusa has a Scotty in inventory. Instead of consuming the Moon's Shard, holds onto the shard and backpacks the Scotty. Questionable choice. But I guess she wants to have a full 6-slot inventory once the Aegis is gone. Swapping out the Scotty for the Lincolns now. Ursa trying again to taunt the Dire team. He knows that the only way that they're going to do this, that they're going to be able to pull this off, is if the Dire makes a really poor mistake. Pudge blinks in. Goes for hook on the Ursa, but misses. Ursa wants to see if he can capitalize on this time. Nothing happening here. Bloodthorn out onto the Medusa. Ursa just dropping. Whoa, okay, that's a hook. That's an ult to dismember Ursa dropping. Ursa BKB's RP onto 3. Magnus ults onto the Medusa, the Timbersaw, and the Slaughter. Sorry, not the Timbersaw, the Techies. Ursa. Magnus is dead. What is even happening? I can't even talk. Ursa dropping that Slaughter. Pudge hooks onto the BKB Bloodseeker. Medusa, Aegis popped. Techies is dead. Slaughter is dead. Now Bloodseeker going after that Pudge. Pudge ults him. And now trying to drop Dusa. Dusa's health going low. Can Dusa finish off the Witch Doctor even? No. 4 dead. Radiant's Ancient is exposed now. The tier 4 dropped. Timbersaw's back. Bloodseeker's back. What is even happening? They are trying desperately to fend off all these creeps as well as the heroes. Timbersaw escapes. Pudge TP's out. Radiant has to play this safe again. But now with an exposed Ancient that is down to 60% health, stakes are higher than ever. Radiant has cleared out their base. Pudge ults onto the Bloodseeker, but Doom's nearby. Blood's down to half health. Pudge hooks him in. Blade Mail coming out, but now the Bloodthorn onto the Pudge. He's dropping. Ursa's taking him out. He's gone. Single Mega Creep poking at that Radiant Ancient. 4 of the Dire are dead, however. Everyone but Timbersaw is down. What's the plan now? What is the plan? Everyone has to come back to defend that Ancient from those Megas. They just can't safely push this. Doom simply farming. Well, he's got his priorities in order, doesn't he? Did I see a rapier being worked on? I think I did. Who was it? Was it Dusa? It is Dusa. Dusa working on the Divine Rapier. That's a mistake. When you're at such an advantage like this, you don't want to be putting those game-risking decisions in my opinion at least. You could get something much safer. You could get an MKB. You could get a Satanic. I personally think there's a lot better options than a Divine Rapier in a situation like this. Because that could be an easy way for the Radiant to come back. You get a Divine onto like that Magnus. His RPs are suddenly doing way too much damage as they're held down for 4 seconds with those empowered right clicks coming out. Battle Fury on the Doom desperately wants to hold off these lines of creeps. No buyback now. Doom just got rid of his buyback money. Buyback on the Magnus, none on the Witch Doctor. It's 3 Radiant Heroes without buyback. 4 without buyback because Bloodseekers is on cooldown. The only person with it is Ursa now, learning from that earlier problem. Pudge blinks in, ults the Magnus, but Witch Doctor stops him with the Paralyzing Cask. Yules comes out from the Bloodseeker, Blood Right. Abyssal Blade onto Pudge, just barely still within Blood Right zone, so he gets silenced, but he gets away. Doom comes out onto the Slutter. Bring out the Chakrams to try and slow him down, do a bit of damage, but it's not too much. Techies does some damage onto the Witch Doctor, but it is just not enough to be significant. Pudge hook onto the Doom. Dismember onto the BKB to Doom. Now Ursa trying to do some damage to the Pudge, but Ursa is dropping. Ursa is low, Ursa's down. Ursa buys back. The Radiant Ancient is being pummeled by Mega Creeps at the same time as this fight is happening. 3-man RP. Death Ward. Heavy damage. Second RP. The refresh happens. Ursa, meanwhile, just fending off Mega Creeps all by himself up on the top lane. Bloodseeker's down, no buyback. Slardar is dead as well. Ursa BKBs once more, but gets dismembered. Witch Doctor's down. Techies is down. Mega Creeps are finishing this one off, and the game ends in a dire victory. Well, GG. Thank you to Thumper for submitting that game to /r/Dota2Cast it. I've been Velocity LP. Thank you for watching. See you next time.